Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you're viewing any of the podcasts on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person and virtual seminars, so please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Abigail Dominguez, who is a passionate nonfiction author and a devoted new mother of fraternal twins. Some of the challenges she endured as a young child propelled her to believe that children deserve to be seen with eyes of compassion. Her work resonates with families and children who share her journey, offering guidance and inspiration. I'm excited and thrilled to have with me Abigail, and I won't say that last name too often because I might just mess it up, but I'm happy to have her with us today. So, Abigail, would you share a little bit about yourself and where you've been interviewed from?
Thank you for having me, Dr. James. I appreciate you. My name is Abigail, and my name was given to me by my father after his mother, the late Margaret Abigail Hanson.
Mm.
And I love my father dearly, and I'm so grateful that he was so good and kind to me in raising me. Anyway, I am talking to you from Mesa, Arizona.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, I want you to know that I do appreciate you sharing your story with listeners of this podcast today. I do have interesting guests on my podcast because a lot of people have great stories, and you have one of those stories that I would like for listeners of this podcast to be introduced to. And so, as I begin, I want to just uh, tell you that your profile was very interesting. I enjoyed uh, reading it, and it seemed to be relatively inspiring, challenging, and very compelling. So I know you've written a book, and so could you share with us what inspired you to write your book?
Yeah.
And a little bit about what it's about. Don't want you to tell us everything right now, but at least we'll get into it a little later.
Right, right. So my book begins with I feel like we all need one or two or more inspirational people in our lives. And one of such people in my life, her name is Patty Slowly. She is such an inspirational woman. When I first came to America, I was born and raised in Ghana, West Africa. I came to America in the year 2001. And I used to work in a deli for 6 months making hoagies and sandwiches. In Philadelphia, and my heart really wanted to have the American experience through the eyes of children by working as a nanny, and so that was on my heart. And so one day, an opportunity came, and I went through the hiring and interviewing process, and I was hired, and my life changed. The narrative of my work life changed. It was joyful, it was humorous, it was so good. And every day after work, I would call my aunt, Patty Slowly, and tell her about my day and about the children. And she would laugh with me, share the joys with me, share everything that I shared with her with me. And she said, You should write these things down.
Hmm.
I took her advice and I began a private blog where I would record all these amazing things that children would tell me. And so years went by. One day I was taking a class online, a family advocacy class, and my instructor challenged us to find an organization that advocates for children and families and make a difference, and or begin your own advocacy. And I thought to myself, where do I start? What's my advocacy? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to compile those journals into a book and share it with the world, share it with educators, parents, grandpas, aunts, uncles, cousins, au pairs, anybody who advocates and um, supports children's learning, growth, and development throughout your own stages. And so the
Okay.
book is called, my first book is called Heart to Heart with Abagaba. My name is Abigail. A 2-year-old tried to say the name Abigail, and
Okay.
she said Abagaba. And
Oh,
since the book is a book celebrating children, I thought
okay.
the title should reflect that
Okay.
language. And
Okay.
so it's a compilation of narratives in children's narrative, and then my reflections on the stories.
All right. Well, very, very interesting. I note from your profiles, very interesting uh, information. Number one, I gather that somewhere along the line in your youth, you have always wanted to write. Am I correct about that?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
you are.
so it looks like that's something that was kind of embedded within you, uh,
Yes.
and and so I was really taken aback by one of the first statements that you made. You said, as a shy, soft-spoken young girl growing up in Ghana, West Africa, I always fill my head with bold and beautiful future dreams. And then the other part was really interesting. He said, one evening after dinner, my father asked what I would do growing up. And I said, Daddy, when I grow up, I'm going to travel abroad, find a nice boy there, and marry him. I thought that was very interesting. So I take it that it was your dream to not only write, but to just do traveling. You wanted to come to uh, America, and then you wanted to just kind of flourish with your dream. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, that would be a correct statement.
Okay, okay. All right, then tell us a little bit about who gave you your first name and why. I think you've already said it, but tell us again because I think it'd be interesting. And let us know that last name, how it's pronounced.
Okay, so my father, he's passed away. His name was Jerry Ebo Hansen. He gave me my name, my first name, Abigail. Um, I was born in some dire circumstances. My mom was 18, my dad was 28. My father used to work for my maternal grandfather, and I just came along. They were not married, and my maternal grandmother was not very happy about that. And she said my mom should pretty much get rid of me. My mother ran away and gave me life. She had me. But then when I was 2 years old, okay, so because my mom went through all that to give me life, my father was so, he was sad that my grandmother would consider getting rid of me. And so when I was born, he was so happy that he loved his mother and then he named me after his mother. So long story short, because of what he went through, I came along in a very unusual circumstance. And then because of what he and my mom went through, and that I was given life, the gift of life after all, he was so happy that he gave me a name after a woman that he loved so much, which was his mother. I hope I said it right. I get emotional talking about it.
Okay, but
I
I
hope
hear
I
you.
explain it correctly. Yeah. So
Okay,
my name came about, the name Abigail, after my grandmother, my paternal grandmother.
and how do you pronounce that last name?
The last name is Dominguez.
Dominguez. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I probably won't say that too much during this
That's
interview.
okay.
But I am always interested in interesting stories, and you do have a very interesting story. So can you, just uh, tell us a little bit about some things that you miss about your country? You came from,
Oh, yes.
Africa,
Yeah.
West
Mhm.
Africa. Could you just, what are some things you miss? Because a lot of people, including
Yeah.
myself, I've never been there, never traveled there. I've always said I wanted to go, but I
Yeah.
haven't been there yet. So, what are some things that you miss, which could kind of say, help listeners say, oh boy, that sounds interesting. I might want to see someday try to get there myself. So, tell us a little bit about it.
I know as much as I wanted to travel abroad when I was a child and I have lived that dream, I live here now, have a family now. I really miss my family. I
Mm-hmm.
miss my family so much. I miss the culture. I miss the music. I miss the people. The
Mm-hmm.
people are so friendly. Seriously, like you don't even have to call a person and say, I'm coming to your place. You just show up. That's how
Okay.
Africans do, just show up. And a
Mm-hmm.
pot of soup cooking, some delicious meal is cooking. There's music playing. We're
Mm-hmm.
very, very family oriented, and I really miss the culture of my family. I became a new mom 4 months ago, and one thing I missed so much was having my mother here. My mother, my aunts. I part of I mourned them. I mourned having my mom with me and my aunt.
Okay.
I
Okay.
just miss the people so. I miss my family so much, and the food is so good. It's a tropical country, so we eat rice, beans, fish,
Okay.
just really good
Mm.
healthy food.
See, look, you're making me hungry now. I might want to go. I might want to go to Ghana, West Africa. Uh,
Yes, yes, you'll be welcome. It's the one of the friendliest countries in the world.
oh, really, really interesting. I like to hear stories like that. Because
Yeah.
people come over from different areas and they talk about what it was like when they were at certain places, and it's always a very interesting. And I think guess. I mean, listeners of this podcast like to hear those stories, because sometimes we're just sitting back and we sometimes are very complacent with where we are. Then when we hear people talk about other places that they've been or where they live, it always kind of stir up something in you. Oh, I love to go there. I love to do this. Or I love to do that. Oh, I like to try that food. This kind of these are the kind of things we kind of think about as we're moving through things. Uh, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
My favorite childhood memories is one of my twin. I have twin aunts, and
Twin aunts?
yes,
Okay.
I have twin aunts. My dad had twin sisters, so my twin aunts. One of my favorite childhood is like they were dancing with me to Michael Jackson off the wall. You can imagine. You can imagine this scenario in my father's living room. I till this day I love like that's one of my favorite memories, like dancing with my family, my twin aunts.
Mm,
Until this day, whenever I dance with the children, my own children, well, they're babies, but I can still move my body and dance with them. I remember my aunts dancing with me in my father's living room. It was more of like the fun we're having. I was about 4 years old, and it was just the fun. There was no adult barrier. There was just us dancing, having fun, and just loving and just like living life and just not taking ourselves too seriously and just having fun. And life can be hard sometimes, and dancing is one of the ways that we can just ease our burdens and laugh. And
mm,
it's a memory that lives forever in my brain. I remember that I was 4 years
oh,
old and older,
wow.
and I still remember. So dancing is just one of my favorite things and one of my childhood memories. I love that.
Yeah, I used to love dancing myself. I had a club in a little place in North Carolina, and I was practicing law at the time, but I would have such great time when Fridays and Saturday night come. Everybody be coming to the club. We all just have the best fun in the world, you know. So I know that feeling. One of the
Well, I
things I
keep dancing because dancing is just,
yeah,
yay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Keep
people, so I assume in West Africa you did a lot of dancing. Am I correct about
a
that?
lot of dancing. Like
Okay.
it's a party until we dance.
Oh wow, wow.
We dance all the time. We dance at dinner. We dance all the time. It's ingrained in us. We just love to dance. We
Mm,
love it. Yes.
wow, wow. You know, am I correct when I say that you wrote your book in, I would say maybe as a result of missing family members, mom, and all of these type
Yeah.
things? Did that
Yes.
have something to do with your deciding to write your book? You know, it's just like, oh, I can express my feelings through this book. Am I correct in that
Yes.
kind of
You're
thinking?
correct. Yeah. So when I was 2 years old, my
Hmm.
maternal grandmother did separate my parents, and so my dad raised me, picked me. My mom, my grand. You know the book "Are You My Mother?" That
Uh-huh.
children's book by P.D. Eastman. I love
Okay.
it. So it was about a mother bird who had an egg in a nest. The mother flies away, and the egg hatches, and it wants to find its mother.
Oh, that sounds
So he
interesting.
goes through obstacles, and in the end, they have a beautiful reunion. That story resonates with me so much. So when I was 2 years old, my my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, called my father and said, "I don't want your child. Come take her and raise her." So he stepped to the plate. He picked me up and raised me. As a result, my parents were separated for
Oh,
30 for 30 for so over 30 years. I didn't know who my mom was.
oh, wow.
And it was such a heartache. I wanted to know who my mom was. I must have come from somebody. Somebody I didn't know my all I knew was her name, her date of
Hmm.
birth, nothing else. And I mourned her so bad. It was so difficult going through life without a mother. And so when I was 18, I thought I would write a book about my mom. But it was at the time I kind of didn't care because I was full of bitterness,
Oh,
resentment, feelings of abandonment.
wow.
Now that I'm older, I have a new perspective. But when I was younger, all the anger that I felt of her leaving me, well, I was taken from her.
Mm,
But
wow.
I wanted to write a book, and I did write a book, but
Mm.
I
I
didn't
know.
write a book.
Yeah,
I was,
I know because I saw something in your profile where you said mourning her with tears on my pillow each night. I hope she would show up and wrap me in her arms of comfort. The longer my loneliness of her absence lasts, the bitter, angry, and resentful I became of her. So all of this played a lot in how you've formulated and decided to write your book. And I can tell that it has to be very interesting because even the story itself, it just sounds awesome. Like, wow, I'd like to know how this is pulled together. So I'm very curious. So let me ask you this. You know, obviously you had this kind of uh how do I want to put it, story that's, you know, had you going through something, and you had to kind of overcome it. You overcome the grief, the anger, whatever, uh, the resentment. If listeners who are listening to this podcast, you know, going through some of the same thing, could be over something that happened to them years ago. They're bitter, they're angry, they're resentful, something that they just think they can't get over. What advice would you give them that would be encouraging, inspiring, and transforming?
I was crippled by fear, fear of
Okay.
the unknown. I was crippled by this woman, I don't even know her. I don't think she knows me. I was afraid of rejection. I
Okay.
would say fear crippled me. And I would say, share your story. When you share your story, sharing my story, people encouraged me to reach out to my mother.
Mm,
I give credit to anybody who encouraged me. Because of them, I'm here. Because I shared my story, they just encouraged me. And I took their encouragement. And it still took me a lot of years
hmm
because whenever I would make a step to find my mother, something that the fear crippled me, the anger came in, all the dark feelings would come back and I would give in. But I kept trying. I did not give up. I did not give up. And then I'm so grateful that I was able to get over my fears because there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I know
mm,
who my mother is. I know why she did what she did. She gave me life. She didn't give me up. She gave me more.
mm.
And finding
Wow.
her gave us a beautiful ending. Seriously, I am so grateful that I wrote my book. It's called My Mom's Incredible Voice. I am so grateful I wrote this book because since finding my mother, I researched stories about mother daughter reunions and
hmm
adoption stories would come up. Now, I wasn't adopted, but I fit in that category of the reunion. I'm getting the chills right now.
Okay.
There are so many mother daughters out there whose ending did not end like mine. I was so my eyes have been opened and I've found so many stories about other people that other other people that wish they would reach out sooner and the mother or the other parent passed away. And I went through those feelings myself and I'm so grateful that I was able to reach out, overcoming my fear. So share your story and overcome fear. Even if nothing glorious happens at the very end, you still
hmm
overcame it. You
You
will still
know,
overcome it.
I, that's exciting because that's something that I think really resonate because mm, it's something hard for a lot of people to do. But if you could just overcome that fear, you can move on. You always know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, So
Yes.
that's a very good something to leave with listeners of this podcast. I want to thank you so much for sharing that. Listeners, don't go any place because we got a few more questions and conversation we want to have with Abigail. But first of all, I want to ask Abigail to share with you a little bit. Well, first of all, the title and name of her books and where you can get them, and how you can find a little bit more about her. So, Abigail, would you share that with listeners of this podcast?
Okay. So my first book is called Heart to Heart with Abagaba. It can be found on Amazon. It's available in Kindle and paperback. My second book is called My Mom's Incredible Voice. It can also be found on Amazon, also in Kindle e-version, ebook, or paper. I can't speak today. Paperback. Um, and yeah, so that's where listeners can find the books at.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to tell them too much about it because they might not get it. But
Right.
what would be the message of your book, your first one and your second one? Just a
Okay.
little bit to kind of tease them a little bit.
Yeah. So my first book is a book celebrating children. Children are so joyful. I can't
Okay.
even live in a world with no children. I'm grateful for their existence.
Okay.
They say profound things. My first book is a book honoring and celebrating children and what we can learn from them. And so my second book is about honoring my parents and overcoming my fear and finding my mother who gave me life.
Mm,
And I'm so grateful I did because she has blessed my life so much. Like that step I made to find her blessed
mm.
my life in ways that I cannot even. I'm so grateful I know her. I'm so grateful that how she's blessed my life. And so
Well
a journey
said.
of overcoming fears.
Okay. Thank you so very much for sharing that. Let me ask you a couple more questions before we end this because this has been a really great conversation with you. I'm really enjoying it.
Thank you.
You're very encouraging and inspiring. Uh, tell us uh, a little bit about how do you define happiness? You talked about overcoming your fear, and I asked you, have you found it?
I have happiness to me is feelings of gratitude.
Okay.
Feelings of gratitude is my happiness. You
Huh.
know, I have come so far in my life, and friends have helped me, family, encouraging people, supporting me, listening to me, and gratitude.
Hmm.
I can have a thought in my head and it's negative, but if I can replace that thought with gratitude, I'm
Mm.
happy. It makes me
Oh,
smile. It makes
oh,
me use for gratitude.
oh, that's
Having
so
attitude of gratitude is my happiness.
that's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. You know, can you share with listeners of this podcast your worst childhood memory and what you learned from it? I know they would like to know this. You're such an interesting guest. Tell us a little bit about.
Um,
Share.
my
Yeah.
worst childhood memory is like being laughed, being made fun of. I'm a very tall. I'm tall. I have a long neck, long arms. I'm just tall.
Okay.
Mother said I never, at 6 months old, I never turned. I was a full-in breech baby. I came with my feet first. So I'm adventurous. I love traveling. I'm tall. And people used to make fun of me for that. Until I
Uh,
came to America, people were like, oh my gosh, you're so tall. Anyway, I won't get into that. But growing up, I was teased for being tall. I was teased for being me. And it kind of made me I wanted to be invisible. I remember, okay, so my worst memory as a child was I was an athlete, right? And I was running track and field, and somebody made fun of me and said that I was like a mosquito running because I'm so skinny. I'm just like, I don't know. And I took that as hurt, and I did not run again. I
oh, wow.
didn't do any sports. And knowing how Olympics just happened and people are getting medals and everything,
Mm,
I wish I didn't listen to that, that critic from others, and just I wish I celebrated my accomplishment of being tall, being able to run and excel in my sport. I wish,
ah,
and it's not too late, but so don't listen to critics. I mean,
ah,
listen learn from them, but what I learned is that not to tune into my inner beauty, my inner voice of positive. That is positive. This is
I,
how God made me. I can't change who I am, but
yeah.
to
You know,
choose tonight.
Abigail, I truly love what you say. Because I watched the Olympics this year also, and just a couple weeks ago, and I was just looking at all of the runners and what have you, and when you were talking about you were tall and ran, I know you had to think about that. I think about a lot of things in my past that I kind of thought, I didn't like it, but then as time passed by, I said, I wish I had really pursued that and did this and did that. Life would have been totally different, but
Yeah,
those are the things that happen sometimes. But it's
yeah,
good advice to be able to give to somebody else as you have done as they're coming along. Okay, I'm tall, I'm skinny, but gee, did you see the Olympics? I could be out there. This
I
is the
put
kind of
out
thing.
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I like that. I like what you say. What is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration in life or in a
Hmm.
person,
Yeah.
or my biggest inspiration is to live life and love life.
Mm, okay.
Um, Believe in ourselves, believe in
Okay.
believe
Okay.
in others, celebrate their successes, celebrate
Uh-huh.
yours,
Mm,
support
I love it.
others.
I love it. I love it. You're excited. You-
Thank
You're
you.
you're excited.
You
Uh,
gotta have me back again. We have more to talk about.
oh wow, wow. This is awesome. Okay, well, I wanted to thank you for coming on and being a guest on the Dear by Me podcast. And I'm certain listeners really are going to appreciate uh, this interview. And so again, I want to just say thank you, thank you,
So
thank
much
you.
for having me. I
Yeah,
so
yeah,
appreciate you. Thank
great.
you.
And there you have it, Abigail sharing her story and her books. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.